A tough day all around for the Broncos. If you could believe it or not, though, it was close at one point, but a stretch there to start the third quarter doomed the Broncos. The final 48-19. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Broncos postgame show. I'm Phil Milani alongside Eric Dalala. Eric, it was close at halftime, but the Broncos not quite good enough today.
No, the Bills went on a 20-0 run there after Drew Lock led the Broncos on one of those final minute drives to end the first half. A nice touchdown pass to Noah Fant, but things didn't go well from there, like you mentioned, Phil. And really, I think it comes down to the fact the Broncos were just overmatched in a depleted secondary. Stephon Diggs had 147 yards. Cole Beasley went over 100 as well, and they just picked apart the Denver secondary. Josh Allen, Phil, just too good. 2 touchdowns through the air, no interceptions, 2 more touchdowns on the ground. He was really good today. And then the Broncos offense just couldn't keep up. It did feel at one point like they were going to have to score on every drive in order to keep up with Buffalo. And on their first drive of the third quarter, Drew Lock gets strip sacked. It gets returned for a touchdown. Things were pretty much over from there.
Eric, it definitely looked like two teams heading in the opposite direction. The Bills clinched the AFC East for the first time since 1995. The Broncos, with the loss, their 4th consecutive losing season here. It just seemed like after the strip sack of Drew Lock, there was almost no chance that they were going to come back and win this game.
Yeah, and it's tough, Phil. A lot of, markers that you don't want to pass, give up 48 points for just the 12th time since 1970. I mean, when you're talking about those types of numbers, that type of, ineptitude, as one way to put it, it's just not a great situation. Like you said, defensively, the Broncos didn't have an answer. Singletary there with a late 51-yard run for a touchdown. They were getting it both on the ground, through the air. And even when they made mistakes, the Bills with penalties, they were still able to score. The Broncos' red zone defense just wasn't up to where it normally is. And offensively, like we mentioned, after a decent first half, they hung in there. In the third quarter, they had negative yardage, I believe, and went 3 and out twice, had the strip sack. And by the time they were able to get things going again and score another touchdown, it was over. It was out of reach. And they're going to have to kind of get back to the drawing board, reevaluate where they go from here. But they've got to be better on both sides of the ball, Phil, and figure out how do you protect a secondary? How do you get a pass rush going better if they want to win one of these final 2 games?
One bright note for the Broncos was Melvin Gordon had more than 60 yards on the ground, had 2 touchdowns in this game. But Eric, where do you think that the Broncos go from here?
Well, I think you need a gut check here, figure out who's willing to fight over the last 2 games. You're down in the secondary. The pass rush wasn't able to generate much. The passing game was a struggle at times, but you've got to find guys who are willing to fight here over the final 2 weeks. See if you can get back to 7-9, get a little bit of momentum going, because it is possible here to still finish the season 3-1 when you look back at that game against the Panthers. And look, the Bills are a really good team, Phil. They're probably going to contend for a Super Bowl. They might be the Chiefs' toughest test, their biggest rival here in the playoffs. And so you might want to throw this away, but you do have to say, hey, can we get the effort back to where it needs to be, get some of the execution back to where it needs to be, and then see if you can get some division wins to close the year, because there is value in beating a Chargers team on the road. There is value in avenging that brutal loss in Las Vegas here in Week 17 at home, but you've got to figure some things out, because that's not just going to happen on its own.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a couple of things there that are worth noting. Effort. And, the other thing that was disappointing here on this Saturday was a couple of personal fouls. I know that Vic Fangio not happy to see that. We saw Michael Ojemudia get ejected from this game. So the Broncos got to pick up the pieces here and finish the season strong with 2 games to go. All right, that's going to do it for the Broncos postgame show. For Eric Dalala, I'm Phil Milani.